Hello, what's cracking, everybody? How's it going? I've got a few hours in New World, 1,447 hours. Now, I quite like this game, and some of you might have realised that with some of my videos. If you remember, I did a bleed build for Sword, Shield, Spear, and I also did a video here of me showcasing some of the damage that you can do with it. And in the meantime, and in the midst of waiting for season 5, I have dabbled in some other games. But I decided to get my feet wet in New World again. And I've got some discoveries. And I also have some math to go with that. So stick around and I'll give you the build that I'm going to be going with in season 5. But this is current build of the game. This is not PTR. We've got 11,220 for Poison Cloud damage. We've got 7,470 Bleeding Sweep. 9,360 for Skewer damage. And we got 28k damage for the total burst of these numbers. Now this is for the current setup. Now if we compare this to the bleed build I made previously, we get 2,585 damage from the bleed dot on the well, from the sword. We get 10,689 damage from the skewer, which by the way is a 21-second tick bleed. We get 7,740 from the bleeding sweep, and the total burst is 21,000. Now, this is current build. This is not post-patch. This, however, is post-patch, and you'll see that there's one difference, and it's 12,040 for the bleeding sweep damage. And that's because this ability isn't affected by bloodletting. So getting a base duration of bleeds you apply lasting 32% longer. This is not working right now, so in the patch it will be. Which means that the bleed build that currently exists is getting a buff anyway. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, doing 21,000 damage burst is pretty good. I mean, it's got some drawbacks. It can be cleansed by some healing builds. And for a shirking dot cleanse, if someone happens to have that, I mean, that can be taken away. But I mean, we could just reapply it again afterwards. Now with these numbers here, this is without Empower. This is not Empower cap. And as you'll see in my bleed build, when I'm showing you guys the rotations, I can hit pretty high numbers, like bleed numbers, with Empower cap. So with that being said, let me show you what I'm thinking. I've gone into a new set of gear. So I'm using so I've crafted some stuff. The Azoth crystal hat. I added nature's harnessing to this. And I'm using the arboreal glass. So we get an extra 2% nature damage. And I'm using the blighted chest wrap. And we actually got a lucky roll on this. We got some health, which isn't too bad. I'm rocking some 32 int gloves, and I'll show you why in a second. But I had these just in my storage, thankfully. Also with some nature damage. And I'm using the attuned leather pants, and I've rolled shirking energy on these, which is pretty invaluable. And then I got some dodgy boots that I need to swap out eventually. These boots here, again with the nature damage and some health. Some pretty good stuff on it, right? Moving on to the weapon, this is the classic syncretic spear. You guys know where you can find it. If you don't, it's in my bleed build. Got the syncretic bow. It's found at the same location as the spear. Using stone form for our heart rune. We got the Tanglevine amulet. Got the thrust protection on this one. A little bit extra with the emerald. Now, Tanglevine ring. I'm lucky I had one of these, but if you don't, you can get it from the Elysian Wilds. From most enemies, they drop it. If you don't know which ones exactly, the New World database will tell you. Pretty easy ring to get. You could farm it in probably an hour or two, if you're lucky. And yeah, so we just rolled on this one Hardy because it comes with poison and nature damage on it. And then I use Endless Thirst because I think this is underrated. I quite like this a lot. But with that being said, I'm going to some perks. Now, this isn't final, but this is what I have so far. So I'm thinking I might swap the penetrating shot for Rain of Arrows and just keep evasive tactics because it might be more effective than concussion, but we'll see. So I've gone with the maxed out poison shot with infected arrows and direct hit. I'm using evade shot. I'm using evasive knockback. We've got rending headshot, battle precision. This is important for the debuff duration, lasting 20% longer. We got deal 10% more damage to foes suffering from a debuff, which you could, I think it's technically in power, right? We got long range, 10% more damage to foes at least 10 meters away. We got the penetrating shot, blood soaked arrow, deep strike, finishing shot, aim true, opening strike, the arrow range, bullseye, and then concussion. So let's move to the spear. On the spear, we're rocking deadly consistency, sweep, tenacious sweep, and coup de grace. This is the best move on spear. We've got merciless strength, deal 25% damage to knock down targets, delicious. Invigorating crits, strong conditioning, skewer, of course, deadly ambush. We got follow through, so having a high crit chance is pretty good for the spear because you get follow through, which is just, it's pretty much a free empower for 20%. And we got the deep wound. Bleed duration increased to 15 seconds, which is going to, it adds up massively. Like I said, we can get a 21-second bleed off this one ability. Refreshing jabs, light attacks reduce cooldowns, finishing blows. We got the vault kick, relentless blows, and continuous motion. I love vault kick, breaking block, and for setting up sweep. Really good for setting up sweep. We got exposed wounds, exacerbating crits, and then exploited weakness. Deal 10% bonus damage for each debuff on your target. Again, very useful and important. I'm going to count the lowest number, 806. So we get 7,254. I think I counted the mid-range damage ticks before because we worked it out to be 7,470. That's neither here nor there, it's minor. And then if we go to skewer, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 18. We got an 18-second tick on the skewer, right? And we'll just say 508. So 9,144. So if we count the crit numbers, we get 9,756. But we counted the lower numbers, so we got 9,360 for our skewer. For a total burst of 28k, right? Now if I swap my gear to my bleed build, you'll see skewer damage. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 21 tick for 509. We get 10,689. 10,689. Same can be said for the well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 ticks of 235, I believe it was. 2,585. 2,585. And then the skewer we did, and then the bleeding sweep is pretty high as well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Shouldn't it be 9? Yeah. So that last tick was from the Keenly Jagged. 7,740. And now, so all I did to get this number here is I added 5 seconds from the ticks of the numbers we got here. Because if you look at this ability, yeah, here. 8 seconds, we see that there, and we check our gear again. If we got the red hot slag and it's got 32% longer duration, and then we also have the butcher, and that's got a 33% longer bleed here. We're looking at 65% longer duration. So if we take our 8 seconds and we put it into our calculator, so 8 times 65% equals. And you can see we're going to get an extra 5.2 seconds on our bleed. The interesting thing is, this is not even including Venom into the calculation. So if we add Venom into the equation, I'll show you the numbers for that in a second. This is the new spear coming, the Venom. You can see poison tipped. Heavy melee attacks with either weapon cause poison, dealing 20% weapon damage for 5 seconds. We get the trenchant crits. Heavy melee attacks deal 34% critical damage. And trenchant strikes. Heavy melee attacks deal 23% extra damage. I'm going to put bleeding sweep on this weapon as well. And so now we know that we get 20% weapon damage bleed for 5 seconds. It's got 70 base damage. If we check my spear here, this has, because we want to take our number from the spear, which is 1,757. And so this is, just keep in mind, this is with the bleed build too. This is not the poison one yet. 1,757. Stop disappearing. All right, now we want to times that by 20%. And we're going to get 351. I'm going to times that by 5 because it's a 5-second duration. I'm going to get an extra bleed tick of 1,757. This is without a crit too. So if we add a crit, which is 0.5, all we got to do is divide this number here by 2. And so we're looking at like 2,500 damage. Around 2,500 damage bleed by poison. Adding that onto our total burst. So we could potentially hit, I have no doubt about it actually. We could hit a 30k dot burst on a player. If you need to find any of this gear, New World Database is a really good resource. You can search all this stuff. And it's this site here. It's a really great site. I use it quite a bit when I'm trying to theory craft something. But you can just come into here and you can just go, oh, what do I want to? Well, I want to find something. Give me an item. And you click the items, and then on the side here you can say, oh, I want to find, Last night I was looking for a ring, so I went to armor and I went down to ring. And I found 2 rings that were really good for this build that I thought. And I was looking at Gorilla's Strength first of all, which comes with Hardy and Nature damage. And then, of course, I found the Tanglevine ring. So it's the same. It's just swapping out another stat. So Tanglevine ring here, and you get the Nature damage, poison, and then I added the Hardy to that. So yeah, hope you guys found this interesting. Maybe you guys can come up with a poison build of your own. Some final thoughts on it. I think if I was going to go the Venom Spear, so I would most certainly change Refreshing Jabs to Refreshing Reach. Or maybe just have both, just because we're going to be relying a lot on heavy attacks with the Venom Spear. Alright, let's go over the attributes. We got 150 in Constitution. This is with Banana Parfait as our food buff. I always build around food buffs. Subject to change though. So we got all health consumables 10% stronger, 10% physical armor when at or above 50% health, increased max health by 10%. We got minus 10% to critical damage taken. We got 25 into focus for the 5% ability cooldown reduction. We want the faster sweeps and spear CD, and we want the faster poison shot. We got 50 into intelligence, 5% damage increase to backstab and random crits, 5% damage increase to targets inflicted with a damage over time effect. That's the huge one. This is subject to change. I'm tempted to go into 10% to elemental damage and 10% damage to light and heavy elemental attacks. We got the 357 into dex just for balancing purposes with the magnifier. But 5% crit chance, 5% damage while at full health, 5% damage while stamina is not full, 15% duration to damage over time effects. This is the big one. 10% bonus backstab and headshot damage. We got the 10% empower for 3 seconds after successfully dodging an attack. We got the weapon swapping will cleanse all stun and root crowd control status effects, 30-second cooldown. That's massive. That's what makes dexterity builds really good. This is crazy. And then we get the 15% crit chance while empowered. This is also huge because we're going to be empowered quite a bit. I went for 100 strength. We get the 5% light attack damage. We get the 10% heavy attack damage. And we get the 10% physical damage. Now, I do believe that counts towards bleeds. But anyway, that's the attributes. So, I'm thinking, we're playing around, we're shooting people in the head, and then next minute, boom, poison cloud, roll in, get a sweep off, boom, chuck a skewer on, and then we watch them melt. It's actually quite a ton of damage. A lot of dots going on. Maybe you guys can try this build out. Let me know what you think. Other than that, enjoy your day/night, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.